Ich wünsche einen wunderschönen guten Morgen hier aus Köln. Mein Name ist Marc Hebecker und ich arbeite bei M+V. Ich habe die Ehre, Sie heute durch dieses Webinar mit dem Thema Vertrieb in China zu begleiten. Schön, dass Sie alle da sind. Für die M+V noch nicht kennen, wir sind bekannt als Dienstleister für Indien. Dabei unterstützen wir vorrangig Unternehmen aus dem deutschsprachigen Raum bei ihren Expansionsplänen nach Indien. Seit kurzer Zeit sind wir auch mit der französischen Firma Altios fusioniert, die es uns ermöglicht, unsere Kunden nun in weitere Zielmärkte überall auf der Welt zu begleiten. Das heißt, durch lokale Niederlassungen in Regionen wie Süd- und Nordamerika, Australien, Europa, aber auch in weiteren Ländern Asiens, wie unter anderem China, sind wir nun weltweit der führende Dienstleister für Internationalisierung. Herr Mascat ist der Gründer von Altios und ist auch heute hier anwesend, und er wird die Firma im Laufe des Webinars noch etwas ausführlicher vorstellen. Next slide, please. Bevor wir beginnen, vorab noch etwas Organisatorisches. Ich bin mir sicher, dass die meisten von Ihnen bereits Erfahrungen angesichts der aktuellen Umständen mit Webinaren machen durften. Und auch wenn diese meist hoffentlich positiv waren, gibt es ja doch immer mal wieder technische Defizite. Falls es also Verbindungsprobleme geben sollte, können Sie sich über eine dieser Nummern, die hier auf der linken Seite eingeblendet sind, unter Login neu einwählen und somit das Webinar weiterhin mitverfolgen. Sie sind während des Webinars stumm geschaltet. Wenn Sie Fragen haben sollten, können Sie diese gerne in die Question Box auf der rechten Seite schreiben. Wir werden dann versuchen, möglichst alle Fragen während der Q&A-Session zum Ende des Webinars zu beantworten. Falls dabei dann eine Frage aufgrund von Zeitmangel nicht berücksichtigt werden kann, können Sie im Anschluss gerne auch noch an uns eine E-Mail schreiben. Da sind wir gerne auch bereit, die Fragen im Anschluss noch zu beantworten. Das Webinar wird außerdem auch noch aufgezeichnet und auf Wunsch können wir Ihnen die Aufzeichnung im Nachgang zukommen lassen. Das gleiche gilt auch für die Präsentation. Next slide, please, Zoe. Bevor ich nun das Ruder an unsere Experten abgebe, stelle ich noch kurz die heutige Agenda vor. Das Webinar wird etwa eine Stunde dauern und zunächst wird Herr Posert beginnen, der als Vertreter für China beim Außenwirtschaftsverband OAV arbeitet und wird aktuelle Themen und die wirtschaftliche Lage in China vorstellen. Im Anschluss daran wird mein Kollege Herr Mascat übernehmen und wie bereits erwähnt, kurz die Firma Altios vorstellen. Genau. Und Herr Mascat wird dann von Frau Su abgelöst. Frau Su arbeitet ebenfalls bei Altios und ist verantwortlich für unsere Niederlassung in China. Und sie wird in ihrer Präsentation über Trends und Entwicklungen nach der Pandemie sprechen und die damit verbundenen Auswirkungen auf den Vertrieb in China. Zum Schluss kommt dann eben unsere Q&A-Session noch. Dann lasse ich Sie nun in den fähigen Händen unserer Experten. And now I will switch to English and will clear the stage for Mr. Posert.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark, for the nice introduction. I hope you can hear me and everybody can hear me. I think we're still on the second slide of the PPT. Don't know if we can manage to skip to the next slide at some point, but I can just start without the slide already. So yeah, good morning from my side to all of you, and thank you very much for having me here in this webinar and giving me the opportunity to say a few introductory words on China. Let me briefly introduce myself again in English to those that do not know me yet. My name is Tim Posert, and I'm the Regional Manager for Greater China and Mongolia at OAV, a German business association focused entirely on the Asia-Pacific region. Yeah, well, I was asked to share some quick facts about China before we dive into the webinar in detail. So let me start with some really basic information on the next slide. As most of us probably know, China is the most populous country and the third largest country in the world. Considering nominal GDP, China is also the second largest economy in the world. If we take into account purchasing power parity, China is even the largest economy in the world. And ever since the reform and opening period initiated by Deng Xiaoping at the end of the 1970s, China has almost every year shown a constant growth rate of more than 6%, which shows that China's growth was and is very fast and impressive. Some of you might also know this very famous picture of the Bund in Shanghai, which was basically grassland 30 years ago and is now one of the most impressive skylines in the world. It's a nice illustration of the fast pace in China. Yeah, the People's Republic was founded in 1949 by Mao Zedong and the Communist Party after a troublesome period of Japanese occupation and Chinese Civil War between the National People's Party, the Kuomintang, and the Communist Party. And then, as I already mentioned, after Mao's death in 76, Deng Xiaoping took power in 78 and instituted significant economic reforms, which marked the beginning of China's transition of a planned economy to a somewhat mixed economy with an increased open market environment. Crucial keyword here would be socialism with Chinese characteristics. So then let's quickly jump to today. The COVID-19 disease was first discovered in China at the end of 2020. We all still know the horrible images of the entire city of Wuhan in lockdown. But I have to say, ever since, China has overall shown a quite efficient handling of the pandemic with very decisive and strict regulations and strict no COVID approach. Which included strict quarantine regime for international travelers. I will say a bit more about that in a little bit. But so overall, China handled it quite well, and life was already in summer 2020 kind of back to normal. I mean, at least that's what friends and colleagues in China are telling me. I haven't been to China since the pandemic started because of aforementioned travel regulations. So China handled it quite well and efficient. So if we can go to the next slide. We have a few general numbers here about China. We see China has a total area of 9.5 square kilometers, a population of 1.4 billion, nominal GDP estimate for 2021. These are IMF and World Bank numbers of 16.6 trillion US dollars. And as I mentioned, China handled the crisis quite well. We have GDP growth in 2020 of around 2.2–2.3%. And so China is one of the only, if not the only country with a positive growth rate in 2020. And we have an estimate for 2021 of 8.4%, which is higher than the years before 2019 and I think even 2018. So now I was thinking if I should use my time here to just throw some numbers at you or talk about the history of China, which are both very relevant and very interesting topics, of course. But I came to the conclusion that these are all things that you can look up in databases and books. So I think it's also very important to mention some of the, let's say, hot topics that are important when doing business with China in the present time. Some of you might know OAV regularly organizes so-called country committee meetings with our member companies, the German ambassadors and the German chambers of commerce in the respective countries. And it just so happens that the last China country committee meeting on China took place 2 weeks ago. So I would like to use my remaining time here to present some key takeaways of this meeting and important issues. I will of course not be able to elaborate on all those issues in detail, but I would like to at least mention them briefly to get into the flow of the webinar. So if we can proceed to the next slide, I have prepared some bullet points. The first bullet point would be that there is generally a positive outlook among German companies in China. The country recovered well from the corona crisis and business is running well. A survey of the German chamber showed that over 70% of the companies, German companies at least, share this view in China. There is another number of, I think, 96% of companies that mentioned that they do not even consider reducing their activities in China. However, there are midterm and long-term challenges. Next bullet point, please. The most challenging issue at the moment for German companies, and this became abundantly clear during last week's session, is bringing employees to China. I have already mentioned before the very strict no-COVID approach that entails strict immigration restrictions and quarantine requirements of mostly 14 days with almost no exceptions. And this is a truly challenging situation for businesses, especially when it comes to negotiations or important visits. And the situation often makes a more local approach necessary. We will hear a bit more on the personnel issue from Zoe later, which I look very much forward to. Just one information from my side. The German chamber in China is arranging fast-track charter flights from Germany to China at the moment on a weekly basis from, I think, July to August or September. So those who are interested or in need of that, because they have to send engineers or other stuff to China, can get in touch with the German chamber. Next bullet point. So another thing we will also hear about later a bit more from Zoe, I think, is that e-commerce is and remains a highly important channel in China and all across Asia. So although compared to the rest of Asia, the Chinese e-commerce market is already very much developed, it's still important to follow new trends such as marketing via streaming, collaborations with influencers and things like that. So consumers in China are very digitalized and e-commerce offers many opportunities. But yeah, as said, we will hear more about that later. Next slide, please. Okay, so I also want to mention one of the most relevant topics discussed at the moment or since a long time already, which is decoupling. So a strong decoupling in the sense of having two different sets of standards globally and, so to say, two economic systems would have significant impact on European businesses, of course. And at the moment, it's still not entirely clear how far the US will push decoupling, but we can already see that the Biden administration's approach towards China does not differ so much from that of the Trump administration. And what we can see is that decoupling is already happening and German companies are already reacting on it. So we have, for example, more localized research and development activities, more in the direction of research in China for China instead of research in Europe for China, which might in the end lead to research in China for the world. I don't know. And we also have, as a result of the pandemic, more localized and diversified supply chains. So it is very important to closely monitor these developments. If I may make a recommendation on that, the European Chamber of Commerce in Beijing has, in the beginning of this year, published a study or a baseline study. It's around 75 pages of in-depth research on decoupling. It's available on the website of the European Chamber of Commerce for download, and I can highly recommend this to dive more deeper into this topic of decoupling, which is a very important topic. Another important thing is, of course, to constantly monitor market opportunities in China. As I mentioned before, China is a market-oriented economy that incorporates economic planning through industrial policies and strategic 5-year plans. So it makes absolute sense to read and understand these 5-year plans to find out about initiatives on the national and on the local level that German companies can participate. So the last 5-year plan from March 2021, this year, for example, focuses on autarky, security, and innovation. And yeah, we have heard in the news that China, for example, aims at reaching carbon neutrality until 2060, which will require a huge economic shift. And I can imagine that German expertise will also be needed for that. So it's also important to keep a close look on the 5-year plans and regional, local, and national initiatives and plans. Yeah, last but not least, a term that always comes up when it comes to China, level playing field. So the opening of the Chinese market is still a slow process, especially when it comes to public tenders or specific market areas which are still not open for foreign companies. The European Union has finalized the CAI, the Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, last year to work on this issue, but we all have heard in the media and the press as well that the process, that the ratification procedures are on hold at the moment because of diplomatic tensions and mutual sanctions. So I just wanted to mention this term real quick. So to conclude, as always, doing business in China is a balancing act between economic success and huge opportunities on the one side and an increasing politicization of economic relations at the moment. But China is and remains definitely a very interesting market. We at OAV, and I think M+V and Altios as well, we will continue to closely monitor these developments and offer platforms for exchange, like also this one today. and frequent updates with you, and you are all invited to join. And yeah, that's it for my part now. Here's also my contact information. If you have any questions that might have not been covered here today or have questions on OAV, feel free to contact me directly. That's it from my side. Thank you very much for your attention, for inviting me to this webinar, and I would now like to hand over to Bruno directly. Bruno, you have the floor.
Thank you, team, and you know, really impressed with your knowledge of China and presentation, and it's a very interesting and amazing country to do business. Just about Altios, and we're very happy, and Mark introduced us and our organization to you briefly earlier on, and we're very excited that Klaus Meyer, the owner of M+V, joined our group and is now a partner of Altios, and we look forward to this collaboration and work with German companies and offer them our network. Just to the next slides, and I won't speak too much about Altios. I was the first employee of the company 30 years ago when I started in Australia, actually, so not in France. We now are in 22 countries. We have 30 offices. With Mario and Verdono, we've got now 750 staff dedicated to international growth. At whatever stage you need support and help in terms of strategy, advisory, expanding, setting up corporate services are obvious, and investing into these countries. We've been in China for over 20 years. We've got about 100 people on the ground, many Chinese and cross-cultural Chinese people that are open-minded about finding the best way for you to consolidate your business, to grow your business in this amazing market that Tim introduced to you. So I won't speak too much about Altios, was just to give you a little flash on where we come from. We love helping our clients in their internationalization, as Mark mentioned, in German, and his German is obviously much better than mine. And I will hand the floor to Zoe and come back into the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
So thanks, Bruno. Thanks to MV and also Tim for your presentation. So today we are talking about also the situation in China post-COVID. I'll try to give a lot of examples for you to understand the situation, but also share some case studies we have in our daily business. So firstly, China is one of the first countries recovered from this COVID pandemic. Today we have 18% of GDP increase compared to 2020, which is quite exciting. Why the COVID can accelerate that so much the business in China? I think firstly, the border is still closed in China, as you all know. So the government try to encourage as much as possible the people and Chinese consumers to buy locally. And that is also because the logistically speaking, it is very difficult for companies to buy to supply from foreign countries today. Prices are very expensive, transportation, etc. But also that is because geopolitically speaking, more and more Chinese companies they are doing good. So Chinese consumers, they have more and more consuming power compared to China 10 years ago. That is probably also the reason why Chinese people are ready to receive quality products and are ready to buy good products. For example, one of our prospects, which is a Chinese company, they are in the semiconductor industry, and they are producing the glue and the film of these products. Due to the geopolitical reason, like Huawei or companies like Huawei are banned in a lot of countries. So Chinese government, they encourage the local producers like this company to supply to Huawei, and this can obviously accelerate a lot the technical aspects of the company, because they will force them to meet the standard that this company used to have with foreign actors. So this company is preparing a lot to the internationalization of their company. They are trying to develop not only today in China a lot, but also in US or in European countries. So this is one of the reasons that COVID has accelerated a lot the business in China. Now, if we are talking about why doing business in China is becoming more and more complicated, especially for the foreign actors. So not only the COVID has contributed for that, but also because the Chinese companies, they are getting more and more competitive now. Not only for the price reason. We all know that to produce in China, we have always this advantage to have a low cost, and so the price is competitive. But not only that. Now if we are talking about with the local companies, the local actors, local players, they can enjoy also a lot of advantages, like the after sales services, because they have a local team. The R&D team, the engineers, they are also closer to their customers compared to companies outside of China. Also logistically, it's much easier for them to have a local warehouse in China to supply directly without any delay. If we import from overseas countries, even if we have a good quality, but it will be very complicated to manage also the after sales services. The engineer team cannot be reactive faced to the requirements of the Chinese customers. But also logistically, it will take at least 2 months for an order to be delivered in China. That is why to have a local team in China, or to have a local presence in China, is very important to also work with Chinese clients. For example, we have a customer, and their products is in the thermostats for the automotive industry. They do this part in the whole engine, and they are quite competitive in Europe markets. They are one of the top players in Europe, and they supply to most of the tier 1 companies in Europe with a very competitive price for Europe. So we carried a market study last year for them, and we learned that actually the players in China, even maybe in terms of quality, they are not the local players are not as good as this company. But if we talk about value for money, they have a ratio much more interesting for their clients in China. So all the OEMs, all the tier 1 suppliers, to buy from them instead of importing from Europe. not only in a price reason, but also because they have all the engineers and all the R&D team in China for the local players. So that is why it is quite complicated for a foreign player without any presence, without any local R&D team or the engineers in China to work with Chinese customers, especially to work in the automotive industries, in which we have quite a long supply chain. And another example we can give is, for example, for F&B industry player who is doing the cranberry, and this is a current project we are doing for a Canadian company in China. It's quite complicated, not for the reasons I just said, so the R&D, logistic, etc., but simply because the Chinese consumers they do not know the cranberries. They might drink some in the past some drinks for the cranberries, but they all the processors, food processors, they do not know how to process cranberries. So all the cranberries so far in China, they are all imported from Canada or from US or from these countries. But this cranberry producer, they want to find a business partners in China. The business partner not only for sales reason, but to produce their cranberries. They would like to export cranberries into China, and the Chinese players or processors, they can produce the cranberry made food for them and sell in China. And we meet a lot of problems here and challenges today, because also the Chinese producers, they tend to be very protective, since they do not know how to produce these products. They do not know how to sell this product also. It's not in their consuming culture to use cranberry in the past. So they tend to be immediately very protective and they try to have as much as possible the information, like how does these people use cranberry in Western countries. So there is a lot of education work and preparation work also for Chinese consumers. If you come with a product that they do not know that much, or is not in the traditional way of usage in China. So yes, we are talking about big potentials in China, but you have to get prepared also that in China the competition is huge, and also the Chinese consumers, if you are talking about something that they do not know, it's going to take you probably a lot of time to educate Chinese consumers for your products. And then we know that the Chinese government, they plays an important role into the business. This is we cannot avoid that, right? But we can try to understand how it works and try to get some benefits from it. For example, in China, all the local governments, they have some KPIs, like all the states in European countries. So the local government in China, they will also have some KPI when it comes to the FDI investment. So they will try to promote their areas by also implementing some tax incentives. And these tax incentives sometimes can be very attractive. We are talking about maybe 50% of the whole corporate taxes you can pay for your company in China, and also 30% of the VAT that you are going to pay in China. So if we add 50% of corporate tax and 30% of the VATs. That's a consequence amount already. But also politically speaking, how to put Chinese government on your side when you do business. If you maintain a good relation with the local government, they can share the customers with you. They can introduce some important players for you. For example, you know, maybe COFCO. COFCO is one of the most important agri-business players in China. It's state-owned, and it controls maybe more than 50% of the food trading today in China. If we are talking about importation, but also COFCO, they invest a lot also in different industries. Like today we are in a connection with an industrial park in Chengdu areas, which is in Sichuan, and this government, they promote a lot of clean tech industry, and the clean tech industry, they will so they will not only give the tax incentives, but also when you come to China, they will also try to help you to develop your business in China. COFCO, as the investors of this industrial park, they will also put you in contact with all the distribution channels they own for the whole China. So that's something very attractive. So if you before you go to implement or decide to develop in China, I think we can explore not the region from region, the different areas, how the local government can support you. The support is not only the financially speaking, but also they can be also business speaking. They can also support you by introducing you the customers and your future partners. Recently, you may also hear the H&M news that H&M was kind of banned by the Chinese consumers, not for the government level, but for the consumers, because there is some cottons for the cottons, they use the cottons from Uyghur or not, so it seems to be a scandal. And actually we found out that Nike or Adidas, they all have this type of announcement, but why Nike or Adidas, they were not banned by the Chinese consumers? Because the government, they played a important role into this event. Nike and Adidas, they have so many collaborations with Chinese government, but also they a lot of distributors, finally they are not Western, they are Chinese distributors. So there is some political influence finally affected into this event, makes that Nike and Adidas finally they were not that impacted into the cotton event in China recently. So all this is to say that in China, if you want to have a good relationship with the government, you need to consider maybe the government as how you can exchange with him. So you are running the business in China, you pay the tax, you have the revenue, you also offer a lot of employment employed in China, and this exchange can be very valuable to offer to the local government. And in the counterpart, of course, you have to negotiate also how the government can also help you to develop your business in China. So this is how you can put the government on your side and how you can get benefit from that relationship. And then we can also talk about the HR issue in China. A lot of you may suffer a lot in China, and that is true. Even for Altios, we meet these kind of issues and problems the turnover in China is extremely high, and especially if we are talking about young generation. If you have the young generation employees in your companies, it's extremely difficult to handle these or to manage these young generation employees. We read that maybe in China the annual increase is the average is 10% increase, while as in Western countries the average is maybe less than 5%. So in China, one of the way, of course, is to increase employees, but not only, because in China these employees can also have a high expectation on the career plan. So all the motivation, how can we motivate them by offer a real career plan? If you are offering some coaching courses, if you offer some training, so for them to feel that they join a company, but they do not stay on the same role, but they are always in an evolving situation and a career plan, and that is something quite motivating for them. I have a friend who has been living in Germany for the past 20 years. So she studied to the doctor courses, and she had worked also in Germany for more than 8 years, and she returned back to China 2 years ago. So she's obviously very qualified, right? But she said that in the past 2 years she worked in China, she feel that China is so different than Germany, in the way that she feel excited about the way how people or employees can evolve differently in China than in Germany. So this she was the researcher in the beginning, analyst in the beginning in the medtech company in China, but she feels that the boss in China will always put her also in a vertical skilled role, like to put her on contact with the customers, to put her also in contact with the marketing department. So this is something very maybe special to China, is that people intend to be more vertical function than to be the expert of his or of her own expertise. So my friend feels very excited about this, and she's looking. She thinks that during the 2 years she's back in China, she is back now in China, she learned even more than 8 years maybe when she stayed and worked in Germany. I think this type of profile, I think you really need to privilege when you recruit your staff in China, is to recruit these people who studied abroad and who has a double culture, who understands why the company will take the decision like this, but also they will know in China how the market will react and face to your products, to your offers. So these are the profiles, I think, to be privileged during your recruitment process in the beginning. And then is the how to motivate these people to offer something different, a career plan, so for them to feel that they are they do not stop evolving in your structure in China. We have recently hosted. So the hosted, we call hosted, is an employee of our customer who are working in our office, in Shanghai office in China. And this person was recruited as the merchandiser of our customer. So her basic work is to negotiate and to talk with the factories and with the suppliers of our customer in Europe. And then it has been 2 years now. She's on this job, and she says she feels tired about it, and she wants to take some challenge. Even though she's very good, well paid in China, we try to make her understand that her salary is over the standard, and she has a very good salary as the merchandiser, but she doesn't feel enough, because in China all the talents in China, I would say not all of them, but most of the talents, more capacity they have, more they want to show their capacity. And this is obviously the case of this merchandiser, because this merchandiser starts to plan to sell for his company in China. Well, unfortunately, this company, so our clients, they do not have any plan at this moment to sell in China. So they don't have any job or responsibility to share with this employee or merchandiser. But just to let you know that if you are in China, don't stop your development. You should always try to evolve also in your structure, so that your employee or your team, your staff, will feel that they are evolving on the same rhythm. They are evolving on the same time with the development of your company in China. So this employee, so currently she's looking for other opportunities, but I think it is pity, because this type of profile, they started to know your company well, and you have to keep them, because if you we have a proverb in French saying that you know what you are going to lose, but you don't know what you are going to gain. So today, maybe to replace talent in your structure is very you have to spend time to find a person who match your structure. But if you recruit this person, you have to take time to train. You have to also to offer something maybe attractive, to send an attractive offer also. So it's always good to offer some opportunity for the employees you have already in your structure. Maybe Bruno, you have some word to say here?
Yes, I mean, yeah, talent retention is very important, and there is a difficult way of finding what we call the white collars in China, and if you do have them, it's a long-term process. As a company ourselves, I mean, we Zoe and her team are promoting our service to Chinese companies, and China can be considered a number of different countries as well, where the people in South China we have would be concentrating in South China, talking Cantonese and with a different way of doing business than the people in Shanghai or the people in Beijing. So you really need to understand not only the cross-cultural aspect and how in China we cannot duplicate a European concept into China. We really have to adapt it, and we really have to do it because China, we always say, works on a dog life, which is 7 years principle. So everything goes very, very, very fast in China. They want to take decisions very, very quickly, and it's the way it's happening. And if you're not part of it, or you're not connected with it, with the right HR, the right people to understand what's happening in China. I mean, I'm anticipating my next trip to Shanghai. I haven't been there for about 18 months due to the COVID situation. Usually I go there at least every 3 months. And every 3 months, Shanghai is a different city. The people you meet are thinking very, very fast. Support you might have, like Google or Microsoft, do not mean anything in China. So you really have to adapt on the tools. You really have to work on the e-commerce. I will just go back into one important aspect Zoe mentioned is the logistic. So as you know, with the e-commerce and the digitalization, people expect to be delivered very quickly. And it's not just consumer product. So some of our clients, I mean, one of the furniture manufacturer decided to have their Asian, Oceania, bonded warehouse in China. So it's not just for the Chinese market, but this bonded warehouse is actually supplying Bangkok, supplying Malaysia, supplying even Australia as a top-up to optimize the cost of the freight and the relationship with the customers. And that's something that we can help you and guide you through. So I think we will maybe move to the Q&A. Congratulations, Zoe. I mean, your case studies were very interesting, and it shows how operational we are. We've got a dedicated HR team on the ground to help you to recruit the right people with this cross-cultural mind. I mean, we have hundreds and thousands of Chinese people studying abroad. And when they come back to the country, they want to work for a foreign entity, but talent retention is very important. So I think maybe the Q&A will bring you more update and maybe more pragmatic approach of the Chinese market. And maybe Mark, if you want to start the Q&A session, I think we only have 15 minutes left, so that could be maybe more specific to what our viewers are interested to discuss.
Yes. Thank you very much, Bruno, Zoe, and Tim. I think that was very informative. Exactly. So we have some questions that came in. Some of you will also remember that I called you in advance of this meeting. So we have some questions that are probably very interesting to talk about. So the first question is maybe for you, Tim. So how can foreign companies that trying to work in China create transparencies when it comes to communicating with Chinese partner? What would you suggest? Because due to the traveling restrictions, it's kind of difficult to have a transparency about the information that you receive from China.
Yeah, that's a difficult question, and I think I don't have a perfect solution for this issue. It's of course something that's bothering all of us. And I mean, we've all seen the change, the switch to digital solutions, and yeah, that's something that is definitely lacking, the personal exchange and also transparent conversations, of course. That's also why I mentioned as one of the first points of the main challenges is that personal meetings and personal get-togethers are not possible at the moment. So yeah, this is a challenging time, and I think we will have to deal with this for quite a while still. I think the information that we have is that we can expect a normalization of travel and a lift of the strict travel restrictions despite the vaccination by mid-2022 or the end of 2022. So it is definitely challenging, but unfortunately, I don't have a perfect solution for that. Maybe Zoe or Bruno has an idea on that, but this is tough to answer.
I think we will have to also get some ground support, that we are on the ground. So if we can help you to talk with these partners, your business partners, or do some due diligence audits with these partners locally, that might help.
And it's where as well we can work on intermediation as well. So sometimes, I mean, at the moment, some of our clients prefer to use our channel to pass on some messages to their team or to their clients, rather than doing it directly through their local team as well. So sometimes it's good to have intermediation as well for this type of issues, to be able to go through different channels.
Okay, thank you very much. There came a question just in right now. Do you have any experiences in how an M&A price is considered for China? Are there any specific KPIs that might be taken into consideration for that? Maybe there's something for you, Zoe or Bruno, to answer.
Yes, I mean, what's important is to understand if it's a buy side or a sell side to start with. If it's buying a company in China or attracting Chinese investors. So there is a number of issues, and we have a dedicated corporate finance team to help our clients. The head of our corporate finance team in Asia is the former CEO of our Chinese operation. He worked for KPMG and Mazars, so has been very heavily specialized in this type of topic. So for the first part, we just signed two mandates, one for a Spanish company, one for a French company in the automotive industry this week alone. And it's basically in line with the question we had before. You really need to be local and really understand the way the Chinese, I mean, the Chinese used to try to understand the foreigner maybe 10 years ago. Now it's up to you to understand the Chinese if you do want to do business in China. So obviously, yes, external growth, it's a faster way to approach the Chinese market, but you really need to do your due diligence. You really don't want the company you acquire to set up a factory across the road and do the same and try to sell again 3 years later to you or someone else. So, you know, and it's getting a bit more sophisticated. Your IP can be protected, and there is basic things not to do and things to do that we will advise you to do. But we can see a very big trend. We were talking this morning with our team on our quarterly meeting. One of our wine producer in Australia is almost banned because the Chinese put 150% tax on the Australian wine. So basically, this wine company is the third largest one in Australia and New Zealand, is going to bottle some Chinese wine, brand it on an Australian way, and get back into the market through that way. So sometimes, you know, if you can't get through the door, you go through the window or the chimney. And it's where, yes, you really need to consider that exporting into China, eventually we wear out. So you need to be local, and you need to be local as well as, sorry, I mean, it's a very interesting topic, Mark. So to realize that now you do not buy from China or outsource into China. You go to China for the Chinese market, but you need to adapt your product to the Chinese market and Chinese specification. And sometimes, as Zoe highlighted, the constraint and the compliance might be higher than it is in Europe in some cases as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's good to keep in mind for before you would want to enter the market or expand in China. The next question is for maybe for Tim again, because do we have any specific information, especially about Western China? How will the government affect the business in this area? What kind of channels of distribution can be used for foreign companies in this area? So because there have been difficulties in the past, so maybe do we have some forecasts or something about that as well?
Yeah, good question. Well, generally, when I think of Western China, I think of the Belt and Road Initiative, of course, which is one of the largest infrastructure projects that we have in the world at the moment, and which specifically aims at also going into the west of China and not only focus on the coastal regions and cities, Beijing, Shanghai, and so on. So I think this is something very interesting to monitor. This is a huge effort from the Chinese government to go into the west of China with this initiative, and it's kind of President Xi's own project. So that is something we should monitor, and this will of course open interesting opportunities, I think. And so the interesting question will be how the European Union will react to this infrastructure project, maybe with their own infrastructure initiatives. So there are already initiatives, but I think marketing wise, the One Belt, One Road initiative does a much better marketing and is much better known than European initiatives. But it makes sense to keep an eye open at the connectivity strategy of the European Union or also from the German government. So there might be also interesting ways to get into the Chinese market or the west of China and also other countries in between. Maybe Zoe or Bruno, do you want to add something to that?
I mean, Zoe mentioned that at the moment there is some very high incentive. Obviously, with 1.5 billion people plus you have in China, you want to be sure that people don't travel from one city to the other whenever they wish and just for seeking a better lifestyle or a better job. So there is a very high regulation about your working permit if you're not from one city. And that's something to understand as well. But I will leave Zoe, she knows that much better. But Zoe will talk about the partnership we're building, and we're going actually to maybe more likely open an office in the west side of China. So the party, the government, is really moving people from the coast and the Delta area that is very rich into the center of China as well. So maybe Zoe, you can re-mention very briefly what we're doing in Chengdu and others.
Yeah, so we have different offices in China to ensure that we can cover all the economic zones, important economic zones everywhere in China. And actually, this is also online with the One Belt, One Road strategy of the government, I think, because all the economy, we see that they are moving more and more to the west part of China. And we have built also the different railway station so that we can have some transportation traffic with Western countries like Poland and to Germany, I think, and to the central part of China or western part of the China.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so there's one last question that we have. It's a little bit different, but yeah, how can you protect your intellectual property from copycats in China? Maybe Zoe, you can just briefly say something towards this. And yes.
Yeah.
Well.
For the copycats, it is the concern of a lot of Western companies, especially I think for German companies, because they do have a very strong IP. And now today, knowing that in China, all the foreign companies are getting more and more protected. So recently, I heard of cases where the German company they win against all the copycats in China, which is something that happened really 10 years ago in China, for example. So now for companies like German, if you come into China with a strong IP, you should get it protected. And then if there are the copycats, you have much more chances to win against these copycats. This is something that you can know.
Okay.
If I may add to that, just a quick information. So the European Union actually has an IPR help desk. So if you just Google EU IPR help desk, you will find the internet, the web presence of them, and it's a huge network of also of legal partners, of business partners, and so on. And I'm sure there's a lot of experts that that have a lot of expertise on this issue. Very interesting to look at. So you will find it easily if you just Google EU IPR help desk, I think it is.
Perfect. Thank you very much. This is actually all questions that we have so far in this box. If there are any questions that occur to you after this webinar, just feel free to contact me anytime. And yes, other than that, thank you again very much, Zoe, Bruno, and Tim. I think it was a great webinar. And yes, I think that's it for today.
Thank you,
Thank
Shishi.
you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
再见。